There are places in this world that, honestly, just defy explanation. Places where the veil between our reality and the next is thin. Dangerously thin. Today we're not just talking about haunted houses. We're embarking on a journey to the absolute epicenters of paranormal activity, the 10 creepiest places on Earth. We're counting down the locations where raw, dark energy has soaked into the very soil, the very stones, leaving an indelible mark that can really be felt by anyone who dares to step foot inside. These aren't just stories, they're warnings, echoes of tragedy and despair that still somehow reverberate through time. I have to warn you right now, what you're about to see is not for the faint of heart. The evidence, the stories, the sheer oppressive atmosphere of these locations can be, well, overwhelming. We're delving into places where people have vanished, where sanity has been shattered, and where malevolent entities are said to linger, just waiting. These are not tourist traps. They're vortexes of paranormal energy, and the feelings of dread and paranoia they provoke are very, very real. This isn't just a video, it's an investigation into the abyss. So, turn down the lights and prepare yourself. The most important piece of advice I can give you is this. These are places you should visit alone. The darkness in these locations is palpable, and it preys on the isolated. To walk these grounds by yourself is to invite something unseen, something ancient and sinister to connect with you. You're about to witness the raw, unfiltered energy of the world's most terrifying places. Are you ready? Let's begin the lockdown. We begin our countdown deep beneath the glittering streets of Paris, in a place where the city of light gives way to an empire of eternal darkness, the catacombs. This isn't just a crypt, it's a sprawling subterranean labyrinth stretching for miles, a city of the dead built from the bones of over 6 million souls. The air down here is thick, heavy with the dust of centuries and the profound, silent sorrow of the disinterred. It's a place that was never meant for the living. The walls themselves are a macabre work of art, meticulously constructed from human femurs and skulls. They stare out from the darkness, endless rows of empty eye sockets that seem to follow your every move. It's an overwhelming display of mortality, a stark reminder that every bone was once a person with a life, a story, a family. You can feel the weight of their collective history pressing in on you from all sides, a silent chorus of the forgotten dead. The sheer scale of it is impossible to comprehend. The official tour only shows you a tiny, sanitized fraction of this underground world. The real catacombs are a maze of off-limit tunnels, a place where explorers known as cataphiles risk everything to navigate. But many who venture into these forbidden passages never return. Stories abound of people getting lost, their flashlight batteries dying, plunging them into a darkness so complete, so absolute that it drives them mad long before starvation or dehydration can claim them. Whispers and disembodied voices are commonly reported echoing through the narrow corridors. Some have felt the chilling touch of an unseen hand on their shoulder, a spectral push from the darkness. There are accounts of shadowy figures darting just at the edge of your light, leading you deeper into the maze, away from safety. It's as if the spirits of the dead are possessive of their domain, jealously guarding their peace and luring the unwary to join them for eternity. One of the most terrifying pieces of evidence ever to emerge from the catacombs is a found footage video from the early 1990s. A man, exploring the tunnels, suddenly becomes panicked. He starts running, his breathing ragged, the camera shaking wildly. The footage shows him dropping his camera, which continues to record as he runs off into the pitch-black labyrinth, never to be seen again. What did he see down there that caused such sheer primal terror? We may never know the full extent of what happens in the unlit depths of this ossuary. It's a place where the line between history and horror is blurred, where every step takes you deeper into a realm of claustrophobia and despair. To get lost here is to be swallowed by the earth, your screams absorbed by the millions of bones that line your tomb. This is a place that demands respect, a place where the dead vastly outnumber the living. Our next location takes us to the base of Mount Fuji in Japan, to a place of haunting, unnatural beauty, and profound sadness. Aokigahara Forest. Known to the world as the Suicide Forest, this is a place where the trees grow so thick they block out the sun and swallow all sound. Stepping into Aokigahara is like entering another world, one defined by an eerie, oppressive silence that is utterly unnerving. It's a silence that feels heavy, intentional. The forest floor is a tangled mess of roots and volcanic rock, making it incredibly easy to get lost. Compasses are said to be rendered useless by the rich magnetic iron deposits in the soil, disorienting even the most experienced hikers. Visitors often tie brightly colored tape to the trees to mark a path back to civilization, creating surreal, desperate lifelines that snake through the dense undergrowth. But even these can't guarantee a safe return from the forest's disorienting embrace. Aokigahara's reputation is ancient, long associated with yurei, the ghosts of Japanese folklore. It's believed that the spirits of those who have died here, especially those who died with anger, sorrow, or a desire for revenge, are trapped within the sea of trees. Their anguish is said to have seeped into the very essence of the forest, creating an atmosphere of overwhelming despair that can influence the minds of those who enter, drawing them deeper into its sorrowful depths. Volunteers who patrol the forest to prevent suicides and recover bodies speak of the intense emotional energy they encounter. They report hearing disembodied whispers and blood-curdling screams carried on the wind, even when they are completely alone. Shadowy figures are seen moving between the trees, always just out of sight. The feeling of being watched is constant, a malevolent presence that follows you through the suffocating quiet. The forest is littered with the abandoned belongings of those who came here to end their lives: tents, letters, photographs, and personal mementos left as final goodbyes. These items are tragic artifacts, each telling a story of unimaginable pain. To stumble upon one of these scenes is a deeply chilling experience, a raw and intimate glimpse into a person's final, desperate moments. It's a stark reminder that this is not just a creepy place, it's a location of immense human suffering. Aokigahara is a place that challenges your senses and your spirit. The silence is not peaceful, it's a void. The beauty of the forest is a mask for the deep-seated sorrow that permeates every rock and tree. It's a location where the veil is thin, not just to the paranormal but to the darkest corners of the human psyche. To walk here alone is to risk getting lost, not just physically in the woods but mentally in the overwhelming sadness that calls this forest home. We now travel to the Venetian lagoon in Italy, to a small, unassuming island with a history so dark it remains strictly forbidden to visitors. This is Poveglia Island, a place that has served as a dumping ground for the dead and a prison for the mentally ill. Its soil is said to be composed of over 50% human ash, a testament to the sheer volume of suffering this tiny piece of land has witnessed over the centuries. Poveglia's horrific story begins during the bubonic plague. It became a quarantine colony, a lazaretto, where tens of thousands of infected Venetians were forcibly shipped to die. Men, women, and children, sick and dying, were thrown into massive pits and burned. It is said that over 160,000 souls perished here in unimaginable agony. Their screams, their pain, their terror, that energy doesn't just disappear, it has saturated the island, creating a permanent paranormal scar. As if its plague history wasn't enough, in the early 20th century, a mental hospital was built on the island. This was not a place of healing, it was a place of torture. The patients reported constantly seeing the ghostly apparitions of plague victims and hearing their tortured whispers. They were dismissed as insane, their torment ignored, but the true madness was yet to come, embodied by the hospital's lead doctor. This doctor was a sadistic man who believed he could cure insanity through brutal experimentation. He performed horrific, primitive lobotomies on his patients in the island's bell tower, using crude tools like hammers and chisels without any anesthesia. The patients were his helpless guinea pigs, their suffering a mere footnote in his twisted pursuit of knowledge. The bell tower became a chamber of horrors, its walls absorbing the terror of his victims. The legend says that the doctor himself was eventually driven mad by the spirits he had ignored. He began to be tormented by the ghosts of the plague victims and the patients he had tortured. They hounded him relentlessly until, in a fit of terror, he climbed to the top of the bell tower and threw himself to his death. A nurse who witnessed the fall claimed that as he lay dying on the ground, a misty apparition rose from his body and choked the life from him. Today, Poveglia is abandoned, left to decay. Fishermen refuse to cast their nets near its shores, afraid of dragging up human bones. Those who have illegally visited the island report an immediate feeling of overwhelming dread and malice. They hear disembodied screams, see flitting shadow figures, and are often physically affected, being scratched, pushed, or choked by unseen forces. The bell tower, in particular, is a hotbed of activity, from which the bell is sometimes heard tolling across the lagoon, even though it was removed decades ago. Our next location is, honestly, like a modern-day Pompeii, a city frozen in time by a catastrophe of our own making. This is Pripyat, Ukraine, the ghost city right in the heart of the Chernobyl exclusion zone. On April 26, 1986, the world changed forever when the nearby nuclear reactor exploded, spewing a cloud of deadly radiation across the landscape. The 50,000 residents of Pripyat were given just a few hours to evacuate, and get this, they were told they'd be back in 3 days. But they never returned. Walking through the streets of Pripyat is honestly one of the most surreal and haunting experiences imaginable. It's a city devoid of people, but somehow, it's filled with the echoes of their lives. Schools are littered with textbooks and gas masks, a chilling reminder of the Cold War era and the failed attempts to protect the children. Desks are still arranged in classrooms as if waiting for students who will never arrive. The silence is just, well, profound, broken only by the wind whistling through shattered windows. The remnants of a life interrupted are everywhere. In the apartments, you'll find family photographs lying on dusty floors, clothes still folded in drawers, and children's toys left scattered in playrooms. Each scene is a tragic testament to the suddenness of the disaster, a personal story of loss and displacement. You can almost feel the panic and confusion of that fateful day, the sense of a community ripped apart in an instant. It's a deeply emotional and heavy atmosphere. One of the most iconic and unsettling symbols of Pripyat is the amusement park. It was scheduled to open on May 1st, just days after the disaster. The Ferris wheel, now a rusting skeleton against the sky, has become a grim icon of the tragedy. Bumper cars sit silently in their arena, waiting for laughter that never came. The park stands as a monument to a future that was stolen, its cheerful colors a stark, cruel contrast to the silent decay surrounding it. Investigators and the few who are allowed to visit have reported strange phenomena that can't really be explained by the radiation alone. They speak of hearing children's laughter near the amusement park, the sound of footsteps in empty buildings, and seeing shadowy figures moving in the windows of the high-rise apartment blocks. Some believe that the immense trauma and sudden loss of life imprinted itself on the environment, creating a residual haunting on an unprecedented scale. Pripyat is more than just an abandoned city, it's a chilling warning about the consequences of human error. The invisible threat of radiation is a constant presence, a silent killer that you can't see or hear, but you can feel with a Geiger counter. This, combined with the profound sense of loss and the reports of paranormal activity, makes Pripyat one of the most unsettling places on the planet. It's a ghost city in every sense of the word, haunted by its past and its people. We journey now to the murky canals of Xochimilco, just south of Mexico City, to a place that started out as a memorial but has, honestly, twisted into something deeply disturbing. This is Isla de las Muñecas, the island of the dolls. As you approach by boat, you start to see them. Hundreds, maybe even thousands of dolls hanging from the trees. They're dirty, decaying, and dismembered, their lifeless plastic eyes just staring out from the dense foliage. The legend of the island is, well, pretty tragic. Decades ago, the island's only inhabitant, a man named Don Julian Santana Barrera, found the body of a young girl who had drowned in the canal. Shortly after, he found her doll floating in the water nearby. Haunted by the girl's spirit, he hung the doll from a tree as a sign of respect and to appease her troubled soul. But it wasn't enough. He felt the spirit was still there, restless and sad. Don Julian became obsessed. He believed the only way to quiet the spirit of the drowned girl was to offer her more dolls, more companions. For over 50 years he collected dolls from the trash and from the canals, hanging everyone he could find from the island's trees. He hung them whole, he hung them headless, he hung them limbless. The island became his life's work, a sprawling, terrifying shrine to a ghost he just couldn't escape. Visitors to the island today describe an atmosphere that's thick with dread. The dolls, covered in cobwebs and grime, with missing eyes and dirt-caked faces, create a nightmarish landscape. Locals and tourists alike claim that at night the dolls come alive. They say you can hear them whispering to each other, their voices carried on the wind. Some have even witnessed the dolls' heads and limbs moving on their own, their dead eyes following them as they walk past. The energy here is, honestly, complex and deeply unsettling. Is it just the creepy aesthetic of the decaying dolls, or has something else latched onto them? Many believe that Don Julian's obsession actually invited other, darker entities to the island. spirits drawn to the strange energy of his ritual. The dolls are no longer just offerings. They've become vessels, empty shells for wandering spirits to inhabit. You get the undeniable feeling that you're not just being watched by the dolls, but by what's inside them. The story takes its final chilling twist with Don Julian's own death in 2001. He was found drowned in the exact same spot where he'd found the little girl's body 50 years earlier. His nephew, who found him, said Julian had been warned by the spirits in the canal that they were coming for him. Did the girl's spirit finally claim him? Or did the dark forces he attracted to the island ultimately consume him? The Island of the Dolls remains a testament to one man's obsession and a playground for something truly sinister. Our investigation now takes us to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to a place designed, honestly, to break the human spirit. This is Eastern State Penitentiary, a massive Gothic fortress that was once the most famous and expensive prison in the world. When it opened in 1829, it introduced a revolutionary and honestly cruel system of incarceration, solitary confinement. The goal wasn't really rehabilitation but penitence, to force inmates into total isolation so they'd reflect on their crimes. The prisoners lived like hermits. They were kept in stone cells with only a single skylight, the eye of God, as their connection to the outside world. They ate alone, exercised alone in individual yards, and whenever they were moved, a thick hood was placed over their heads to make sure they never saw another inmate's face. This extreme isolation was a form of psychological torture, and it drove a lot of inmates to insanity. The silence was just absolute, broken only by the sounds of weeping and madness. The cruelty didn't stop at isolation. Punishments were brutal and honestly inhumane. There was the mad chair, where inmates were strapped down so tightly for days on end that their circulation was cut off, often requiring amputation. There was the iron gag, a horrific device that clamped an inmate's tongue to their wrist behind their back. Any movement would cause the tongue to tear and bleed. And there was the hole, a pitch-black underground cell where prisoners were left with little food, water, or light for weeks. This immense suffering has left a dark stain on the penitentiary. The stone walls seem to have absorbed the pain, the rage, and the despair of the thousands of men who were confined here. After it closed in 1971, the prison fell into ruin, but the entities left behind remained. It's now considered one of the most haunted places in America, with paranormal activity being a constant, aggressive presence. Locksmiths working on the property have seen the faces of tormented spirits on the massive cell doors they were trying to open. One man was working on cell block 4 when he was overcome by a powerful force, so strong he was unable to move, as if held in place by a swarm of negative energy. Shadowy figures are frequently seen darting down the long, empty cell blocks, and a dark figure has been spotted in the guard tower, watching over the crumbling prison. The most active area is cell block 12, known for its disembodied, cackling laughter that echoes through the corridor, believed to be the ghost of an inmate who was driven insane. In cell block 6, shadowy forms are seen climbing along the walls. People report hearing ghostly whispers, the clang of cell doors slamming shut on their own, and the phantom footsteps of unseen guards making their rounds. Eastern State is a vortex of pain, a place where the tortured souls of its prisoners are trapped in an eternal sentence. We travel now to the heart of Transylvania, near the city of Cluj-Napoca in Romania, to a forest that is paranormal in a way that, honestly, just defies simple ghost stories. This is the Hoia Baciu Forest, a place so rife with unexplained phenomena that it has earned the nickname, the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania. For decades, it has been a hotspot for UFO sightings, strange lights, and bizarre physical and psychological effects on visitors. The forest itself has a strange appearance. The trees are inexplicably twisted and contorted, growing in these bizarre corkscrew patterns, as if warped by some unseen force. In the center of the forest is a perfect circle, a clearing where nothing grows. Soil samples from this clearing have been tested, but scientists can find no reason why the vegetation refuses to take root. Locals believe this clearing is the epicenter of the paranormal activity, a portal to another dimension. Visitors to Hoia Baciu report a host of unsettling experiences. Many are overcome with intense feelings of anxiety, nausea, and dread the moment they step among the trees. They develop strange rashes, scratches, and even burns on their skin that appear from nowhere and vanish just as quickly. Others experience severe headaches and a sense of being watched from all sides by an intelligence that is, well, not human. It's as if the forest itself is actively hostile to intruders. The forest is famous for its unexplained lights. Orbs of light of varying colors are frequently photographed and witnessed, hovering silently between the trees before suddenly darting away at impossible speeds. Strange, disembodied voices and feminine laughter are heard when no one is around, and some have captured electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs, that suggest a conversation is happening just beyond our range of hearing. Perhaps the most famous incident occurred in 1968 when a military technician named Emil Barnea photographed what he claimed was a UFO hovering over the clearing. The photograph was analyzed and deemed authentic, becoming one of the clearest images of an unidentified flying object ever captured. This event cemented the forest's reputation as a gateway for something not of this world, attracting paranormal investigators and scientists from all over the globe. But there are darker legends too. Stories are told of people who have walked into the forest and vanished without a trace. One legend speaks of a shepherd who disappeared along with his entire flock of 200 sheep. Another tells of a 5-year-old girl who wandered into the woods and was lost, only to re-emerge 5 years later, wearing the same clothes and not having aged a single day. Oyabachu is not just haunted, it's an anomaly, a place where the laws of physics and time seem to break down. We now journey to the banks of the River Thames in England, to a fortress that has stood for nearly 1,000 years. This is the Tower of London. While it's famous for housing the crown jewels, its history is steeped in blood, betrayal, and execution. For centuries, it was a royal prison, a place where enemies of the crown were brought to be tortured and killed. The sheer amount of political intrigue and violent death that has occurred within these walls is staggering. The tower is not just one building but a complex of them, and, many are said to have their own resident ghosts. The most famous is perhaps Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII. Beheaded on the Tower Green in 1536, her spirit is often seen walking near the site of her execution, sometimes carrying her own severed head. She has also been seen leading a ghostly procession in the Chapel Royal of St. Peter ad Vincula, where she is buried. Another tragic tale is that of the princes in the tower. In 1483, the 12-year-old King Edward V and his 9-year-old brother Richard were imprisoned in the tower by their uncle, the Duke of Gloucester, who then became King Richard III. The boys vanished, presumed murdered. For centuries, their ghosts, two small figures in white nightgowns, have been seen gliding silently through the bloody tower, holding hands and looking terrified before fading into the stone walls. The White Tower, the oldest part of the fortress, is haunted by a white lady. No one knows her identity, but she is often seen waving to groups of schoolchildren from a window. The smell of her cheap perfume is said to linger in the air long after she has vanished. Some believe she is a spirit drawn to the innocence of the children, a stark contrast to the brutal history surrounding her. Torture was common at the tower, and the screams of those stretched on the rack or broken by other horrific devices are said to still echo in the dungeons. The ghost of Guy Fawkes, who was interrogated and tortured here after the gunpowder plot, is said to haunt the corridors. And the ghost of Sir Walter Raleigh, imprisoned for 13 years, is seen pacing the ramparts of the bloody tower, forever a prisoner of the fortress. One of the most terrifying specters is that of the Countess of Salisbury, Margaret Pole. When she was brought to the execution block at the age of 67, she refused to lay her head down, proclaiming she was no traitor. She ran from the executioner, who chased her around the scaffold, hacking at her with his axe until she was dead. Her phantom is said to reenact this horrific scene, her screams of terror and pain chilling visitors to the bone. The Tower of London is a living museum of history, but it is also a prison for the countless souls who met their violent end within its walls. Our next stop takes us to Polypel Island on the Hudson River in New York, to a location that looks like a forgotten Scottish castle. This is Bannerman Castle, but it was never a real castle and no royalty ever lived here. It was a massive military surplus warehouse, an arsenal built by a Scottish immigrant named Francis Bannerman VI at the turn of the 20th century. He designed it himself to look like the castles of his homeland, creating a bizarre and imposing structure on the small island. Bannerman filled his island fortress with millions of rounds of ammunition, cannons, black powder, and other military artifacts he bought from the government. The island was essentially a private, poorly regulated arsenal. Bannerman was so worried about the danger that he built a smaller, separate castle-like structure to live in, far from the main storage building. His fears were well-founded, as the island's history is marked by mysterious and violent explosions. In 1920, just 2 years after Frank Bannerman's death, a massive explosion rocked the island. 200 tons of shells and powder detonated, destroying a large portion of the castle and sending debris flying across the Hudson River. The cause was never officially determined, but many believe it was the beginning of a curse that hangs over the island. The structure was heavily damaged, setting in motion a long, slow decay. The island's misfortunes continued. In 1950, a freighter ran aground on the island during a storm. In 1969, a massive fire, again of mysterious origin, gutted the remaining buildings, destroying the floors and roofs and leaving behind the skeletal stone shell we see today. It's as if some force on the island is actively trying to destroy the structures built upon it, rejecting any human presence. Those who have visited the crumbling ruins report a deeply unsettling atmosphere. They speak of hearing disembodied voices carried on the wind, the sounds of explosions when nothing is there, and the distinct feeling of being watched from the empty windows of the castle. Some have even claimed to see the apparition of Frank Bannerman himself, or a woman in white, believed to be his wife, still wandering the grounds of their ruined island home. The island is now off-limits to the public without a guide due to its dangerous, unstable condition. But the stories persist. Kayakers on the river report strange lights and eerie mists surrounding the island at night. The combination of its bizarre architecture, its explosive history, and the constant unexplained accidents and fires has given Bannerman Castle a reputation as a truly haunted and cursed location, a crumbling monument to one man's dream that has become a paranormal nightmare. For our final location, we travel to the majestic Rocky Mountains of Estes Park, Colorado, to a hotel that is as famous for its paranormal guests as it is for its living ones. This is the Stanley Hotel, a grand historic building that is so active, it inspired horror master Stephen King to write The Shining after a one-night stay. The hotel doesn't just have a few ghost stories, it has a full-time roster of resident spirits. The hotel was built in 1909 by F.O. Stanley, the inventor of the Stanley Steamer automobile. He and his wife, Flora, are said to be the most prominent spirits here. F.O. is often seen in the lobby and the billiards room, his old favorite haunt, sometimes appearing in photographs as an extra face. Flora's spirit is heard playing the antique Steinway piano in the music room late at night, the beautiful melodies drifting through the empty hotel when no one is there. The most famous haunted room is 217. This is the room where Stephen King stayed, and it was the site of a near-fatal accident in 1911. A chambermaid, Elizabeth Wilson, was lighting the gas lanterns when a leak caused a massive explosion. She was blasted through the floor but miraculously survived. Her spirit is said to remain in the room as a sort of spectral housekeeper. She is known to unpack guests' luggage, fold their clothes, and place items away neatly. She is not a fan of unmarried couples sharing a bed, and some have reported feeling a cold force push between them as they sleep. The fourth floor is another major hotspot, particularly for child spirits. The sounds of children running, laughing, and playing in the hallways are a common occurrence, especially late at night when the floor is empty. Guests in the rooms on this floor report their lights turning on and off, and the feeling of someone small tugging on their clothes. Room 401 is said to be haunted by a male spirit named Lord Dunraven, who owned the land before the hotel was built. He is known to stand in the corner of the room, and some guests have had their belongings stolen by this spectral thief. The concert hall is another area of intense activity. A construction worker named Paul is said to haunt the venue. He was a handyman who suffered a heart attack in the hall, and now he interacts with tour groups, often responding to questions with audible whispers or by flickering the lights. A young girl named Lucy is also said to haunt the basement of the concert hall, a spirit who will respond to questions during paranormal investigations. The Stanley Hotel fully embraces its haunted reputation, offering ghost tours and paranormal investigations. The sheer volume of credible reports from guests and staff alike, from full-bodied apparitions to disembodied voices and objects moving on their own, makes it a must-visit for any paranormal enthusiast. It's a place where the veil is incredibly thin, and checking in means you might be sharing your room with someone from the other side. We've journeyed through the Empire of the Dead, stood at the edge of the suicide forest, and walk the haunted halls of asylums and prisons. These 10 locations are a testament to the fact that some places hold on to the past with a terrifying grip. The pain, the tragedy, and the raw emotion experienced in these spots have left an energy signature, a permanent scar on our world that continues to affect the living. The evidence and the eyewitness accounts are compelling, and they all share one common thread, a feeling of profound dread. Remember the warning from the beginning of our investigation: you should never ever visit these places alone. The entities and energies that reside here are drawn to the vulnerable. Going alone is an open invitation for a negative attachment, an experience that could follow you home and change your life forever. Always show respect, always be aware of your surroundings, and never provoke the spirits that linger in the shadows. Your safety, both physical and spiritual, is paramount. Now I want to hear from you. The world is full of unexplained mysteries, and I know many of you have your own stories. Have you ever had a paranormal experience? Have you visited a location that left you with a feeling you couldn't shake? Share your stories in the comments below. Let's create a community to discuss and understand these incredible phenomena. Thank you for joining me on this chilling journey. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more investigations into the unknown. Stay safe.